Any other material you'll see or hear on Heading in the Right Direction are for informational and educational purposes only. Heading in the Right Direction is not intended to be a substitute for professional help. Dr. Cohen is providing his general opinion on heading in the right direction based on his experience. Dr. Cohen is not your doctor and is not giving you professional advice. Dr. Cohen gives professional advice in private sessions to his patients. If you have a doctor, your doctor should be consulted with any questions you may have about the information you saw on Heading in the Right Direction. If you do not have a doctor, you should seek the services of a doctor and not rely on Heading in the Right Direction. Also, some of the information presented on Heading in the Right Direction is subject to legal protection and may not be used without the permission of Dr. Cohen.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Sidney Cohen. I'm a psychologist in private practice in Cherry Hill, and I'm your host today for the show Heading in the Right Direction. Today, I want to address the subject of addiction, which is a subject that many people, of course, are aware of the problems involved in addictions and availability for treatment options and so forth. That is all a complex subject. So what I want to do is first give some overview about some of my thoughts on the subject of addiction, put that out there, and we'll take a break. And then after the break, I have a special guest who will be appearing for the rest of the show, and I will tell you about my guest in a couple of moments. Let me start first with the subject of addiction in terms of, I want to offer a definition of addiction that I use in my work. It isn't the standard or traditional definition of addiction necessarily, but it's the one I use. And it's a two-part definition. So part one is any behavior that's in control of you rather than you're in control of the behavior. So that's the first part. The second part of the definition, though, is really the key that separates it from any other definition that might be a behavior that's in control of you, and that's that the behavior that's in control of you causes you harm. And it can cause harm in four possible ways. It can cause emotional or psychological harm. It can cause physical harm. It can cause financial harm. It can cause relationship harm. In the cases of some addictions, heck, it can cause all four types of harm. So again, the definition includes both pieces. Behavior's in control of you, and it causes harm. Okay. Part of the reason that I use that definition is because it allows the definition of addiction to go beyond the standard traditional definition as mainly substance related, as I think it's safe to say most people's impression is of addiction. But using the definition of behavior in control of you and causes harm allows me to expand the definition and extend it to other areas, like excessive gambling, overspending, pathological lying, excessive watching of porn. Any of those behaviors are behaviors that can take control of someone, and in the process, sooner or later, are virtually guaranteed to cause some type of harm. But I even want to take it one further step. I want to put out there a notion of addiction that is more in the context of an interpersonal relationship type of addiction, where the behavior is in control, in this case, of two people in a relationship together, and it certainly can cause harm to the relationship and cause harm to each individual involved. And what I'm mainly referring to there is under the heading of power struggles, where there is essentially addictive arguing and fighting and attempting of each partner to impose their right way of doing things, right perspective, and so forth on the other person. When that pattern becomes deeply ingrained, I think it's safe to say it's a form of addiction. Although I'm even going to add a little postscript to that. Enough instances in which the essence of how things deteriorate in a relationship like that, to the point where it pretty much becomes bitterness on at least one partner's part, maybe even both. Another term I use is addiction to spite, where at least one partner, if not both, reach a point, sometimes they're still in the relationship together. I've seen enough instances in my work where this spite addiction, the behavior of somehow still trying to spite the other person, can go on and on even when a couple is divorced. Even if each, much less both members of that former relationship, are now off in another relationship. there can still be months or years in which, and you may have seen examples, there may be personal examples, in which one partner, if not both, continue to try to do things to spite each other. Whether it's financial, whether it's through the kids, just as a couple of examples. So I am, again, extending the definition of addiction to include instances in which it's essentially a behavior and control of a couple through addictive arguing, fighting, and spiting. Next thing I want to cover is, so what are the quote benefits? What is the reinforcement for maintaining an addictive behavior? Some of this may be kind of obvious to say, just put a few things out there. For example, safe to say that addictive behavior, addictive tendencies tend to provide some degree of relaxation, some degree of escape, some degree of fun, some degree of excitement. These are the kind of behaviors that, although the behavior certainly can be self-sabotaging to the individual, sabotaging to the relationship, these are the kinds of things that reinforce keeping whichever type of addiction it is in place. There's also instances in which a person, especially say under the influence of a substance, has this feeling of power, this feeling that they're really in control, they're really confident about themselves, pretty much can do anything they'd like to say or think that they may have convinced themselves they can't really do if they're not in some kind of, quote, intoxicated state. So that becomes another example of something that is a, quote, benefit or a reinforcement for the addiction. Another is disinhibition of feelings and behaviors along the lines of anger, sexuality. It's pretty well known there are people, for example, who in an intoxicated state of some type of addiction can become not just angry, but have episodes of rage. They're out of control, they're at least verbally out of control, can even become physically assaultive. And other instances, certainly under the influence of addictive substances and so forth, where there's a sexual disinhibition that ordinarily, odds are, wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the addictive behavior. One more thing I think I'll throw in the mix, though, in terms of a benefit, if you will, or a reinforcement for addictive behavior, is it can create a sort of feeling of rebelliousness. It's a rebelliousness or rebellion it can be kind of reckless, it can be kind of irresponsible. But if it's something where you feel like, if not consciously, then deep down, you want to sort of do something that isn't really what you're supposed to do, isn't something that is, quote, the right thing to do, it's certainly not a very advisable thing to do, but that's something addictive behavior can also offer. Plus one more thing, and I think it cuts across all types of addiction, be it substance, be it gambling, whatever it is, and that's anesthesia. It is a form of numbing pain. Whether it's emotional pain, occasionally instances of physical pain, the addictive behavior can, at least for, say, the couple of hours where the addiction is going on, you're in a state of a certain type of numbness. The pain is anesthetized, at least temporarily. Unfortunately, the pain can come back. And that's part of the reality of addiction. And another piece of the addiction, and then we'll take a break, is the issue of respect. Someone who has an addiction, it's hard to respect them. A person who has an addiction, it's hard to respect themselves, in spite of all the, quote, benefits. That's, I think, something really important that needs to be kept in mind. So why don't we take a break on that note, and we'll be back shortly, and I'll introduce my special guest.
In a world where bankers have lost all interest, where robots and fat cats rule our fortunes, one woman will stand up and strive to do the impossible. Be treated like a person. Friends and neighbors will join her quest. Ordinary people will band together against the forces of corporate greed. And together they will form Philadelphia Federal Credit Union, already in a neighborhood near you.
Imagine the finest hand-selected USDA prime steak you'll ever have. The freshest line-caught seafood, our Wine Spectator award-winning wine list, and soul-satisfying desserts. Bring that together with the perfect date, the winning business deal, a memorable family celebration. Welcome to Rod's Steak and Seafood Grill in nearby Morristown, New Jersey. bring your appetite and feed your passion.
Your credit score is yours, and at Experian Credit Expert, we want to help you really use it. With access to helpful Experian experts over the phone and online, we can help you use it to get a better idea of what info the banks have on you. Use it to get more choice of mortgages. Use it to make your money go further. Take the next step to improving your financial future with your free 30-day trial at experian.co.uk.
Here at Freppy's Tex-Mex, you can definitely taste the freshness in our food. You should definitely come to Freppy's because it's a great place. You can bring your family, very kid-friendly. All my servers are amazing, friendly people. Everyone here is just happy to serve, and I think it shows. The thing that sets us apart is the quality and freshness of our food. And I think once you try it, you'd be coming back. I'm Joe DeSario, co-owner of Freppy's Tex-Mex in Plainfield, New Jersey.
Hey there, everybody. This is Scott Tanker, host of Lunch with the Boss on RadioVisionNetwork.com. I want you to visit me each and every Thursday from 12:30 to 1 o'clock, where we have special guests talking about the dynamics between employees and employers. We talk about their business. We let our audience know, that's you folks, what these businesses are all about and how we can make the working environment better, while at the same time learning about the local businesses here in the Delaware Valley. So,
Welcome back. Dr. Sidney Cohen, your host of Heading in the Right Direction. Talking today about the subject of addiction. And I'd like to now introduce a very special guest. This gentleman is a very esteemed colleague of mine. He's a friend of mine, and he's someone who is in the community in and around South Jersey, but well beyond there, is somebody who is very highly respected, and I think someone who is a gem of a human being, but I'd like to tell you a little more about him. My guest is Vincent Di Pasquale. He is a noted lecturer. By the way, this is one of his books, amongst several, called The Relationships, The Gifts of Life. Vince is a noted lecturer and educator in the tri-state area and has been active in the field of addiction since 1977, 38 years, not bad. He is co-founder and director of The Starting Point, located in Haddon Township, New Jersey. The Starting Point is an education and referral center specializing in the area of dependencies and functions as a support system for an individual's personal growth. Many people have come to know Vince and think very highly of him. On a little bit of a lighter note, I'd just like to mention, recently we celebrated Vince's 75th birthday, and there must have been about 150 to 200 people there honoring this man, and it was really a pleasure to be there. And all I can say before I have Vince start to talk is I do think the world of him. My only problem is he's a New York Yankee fan. That's a bit of an issue, but other than that, we all live with what we live through with friends. So, welcome, Vince. It's great to have you on.
Thank you.
So, where would you like to start? What would you like to tell us about you, Starting Point, and so forth?
Well, Starting Point actually is something I kind of put together way back in '87 as a halfway house for street people in Philly, and it developed to what it is today over in Haddon Township. But primarily, Starting Point, I joke about it. I call it the clearinghouse of addictions. Okay, because basically we try to treat all the different addictions, but we kind of form them around one word, and the word is codependency. And I'm a firm believer, just to follow up on what you were talking about earlier, my definition of codependency over the years is very simple too. It's any person, place, or thing that you have built a dependency on, which means you cannot function without it. That makes your life unmanageable or makes your life crazy. That can be a substance, that can be a person, that can be a family member, that can be a job, that can be a lot of different things. So really, when we talk about addiction, we're not just talking about drugs and alcohol. It really opens up to a whole different dimension. And I'll kind of give you a history to kind of show you how this happened.
Please.
If you go back to about 1930, I wasn't around then, by the way, but I came on in 1940. In 1930, if you had a drug problem or an alcohol problem, they dealt with it in a very simple way. Any kind of mental problem. It was called out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
They put you into a psych hospital, shoot you full of Thorazine, and we had back then called the famous Thorazine shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
In 1935, we had the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. The word codependency in 1935 meant anybody related to, connected to, or part of just an alcoholic. In 1978, a lady wrote a book. The book was called Adult Children of Alcoholics. In the book, she put something called a laundry list, with the traits and characteristics of an adult child of an alcoholic. But that book came out and made the New York Times bestseller list in 2 years. And literally when I read it, to be honest with you, my own personal life, I thought she lived in my house. It was unbelievable. I thought she was my sister. So in 1983, there actually was a 12-step movement called ACDP, Adult Children of Dysfunctional Parents. So in 1985, 2 books came out, Codependent No More, Facing Codependency. And when they came out, they totally changed the addiction community. For example, you can be a drug addict and you can be an alcoholic and never pick up a drink or a drug. I mean, you have all the tendencies, the addictive personality, but you can act them out in different ways. So one of the things I did over the years, when I put together a lot of my talks and things on codependency, I like to describe the addictive behavior or the addictive personality. And I describe it as addicts either become isolators, fantasizers, or caretakers. Okay? And normally, if you look at all of this, and I've said this for so many years in my second book I wrote on childhood history, brings a lot of this out. If you go back and look at the first 10 years of your life, it pretty much tells you everything about you. Why you act the way you act, why you function, why you behave the way you behave. And I joke. I say it takes 10 years for this stuff to be developed and 80 years to work on it.
Absolutely.
If you make 90, we give you a break, not a problem at all. So we keep it simple. But anyway, one of the things I've learned is in growing up as children, we join families and we look for what I refer to as our spiritual foundations from those families.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest things when I talk about spiritual foundations, feeling safe, feeling loved, being able to have things taken care of for me, how to play, how to socialize. Well, what's my identity? Where do I come from? What am I all about? What's my history? So usually what happens a lot of times when people are growing up, they don't have a lot of this. So they can build personality traits, or I call them, and here's the unfortunate part about society, I refer to them as survivor traits. And too many people survive life, they don't live life. And I've learned over the years that when it comes to addiction, there's 3 basic survivor traits. We can either isolate and hide. And by the way, 68% of all addicts in our society go to work every day. They're functional. We either become fantasizers. I can't deal with reality, so I create a secondary world. Or I become what people refer to them as liars, but really it's almost like they kind of separate and develop 2 different personalities. Or they become caretakers. That was mine, by the way. They become caretakers where they literally spend their whole entire life taking care of somebody else and never have to look at themselves as a person.
And let me hold you right there for a moment. This is terrific. We're going to pick right up on this. We're going to take a quick break. This is heading in the right direction, and we'll be back in a moment.
Here, we have an attractive orange and a distinguished apple. The 2 similar, but opposites. Theory, a wingman is needed. Or perhaps, a wing lemon. A friend to the orange and an acquaintance to the apple, the lemon brings the 2 opposites together. See, with a little fresh thinking, the universe can be surprisingly smooth.
When we make Beyond Natural dry dog and cat foods, we start with real meat as the first ingredient. We leave out corn, wheat, and soy. And We own where our dry food is made. 100%. Can other brands say all that? For nutrition you can trust and your pet will enjoy. Does your food go beyond? Learn more at purinabeyond.com.
Fitzpatrick's. Deli dine for breakfast and lunch. And at night, gourmet dine for dinner with entrees and specialty sandwiches including certified black Angus cuts of beef and wild-caught seafood, plus catering options for specialty events. Since 1989, Fitzpatrick's, your hometown place with upscale tastes.
Apple Ridge is about freedom. Apple Ridge is about community. Apple Ridge is about home. Apple Ridge, everything you want, more than you expect. Welcome to your new neighborhood. Apple Ridge Senior Living. Enjoy a maintenance-free, affordable luxury lifestyle today. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and find out more about the Apple Ridge experience.
Hi, I'm Jim Turpin, host of Your Best 50. Please join me every Thursday at 3:30 where we'll cover topics that are important to the baby boom generation and their kids. And let us help you make this your best 50.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Welcome back. Dr. Sidney Cohen, and this is Heading in the Right Direction. We're talking today about the complicated subject of addiction. My special guest, Vince Di Pasquale, the founder and director of Starting Point in Haddon Heights, New Jersey, is my guest. I'm feeling very, very enthused about having Vince on with me today, to the point where I've just suggested to Vince, and he's fortunately very receptive, that we're going to have another show sometime soon. We'll follow up on this. So for today, and beginning to wrap it up for today, Vince, why don't you tell us a little bit more about Starting Point itself, some of the services offered, and so forth.
Starting Point basically is a center where we basically have 20-some counselors that are connected to us, that we refer to, and all of our counselors deal with different types of addictions, codependency, grief and loss, different aspects. You can get a lot more information about Starting Point and what we do on our website, which is startingpoint.org. Also, one of the things, a lot of what I'm talking about today, and a lot of follow-up to it on the codependency piece, you can also find on my YouTubes, which are under my name, or if you go on startingpoint.org and go down to our Facebook account, they're also on there too. So you can pick a lot more information in that direction. And also, we run educational programs at Starting Point on a regular basis. So basically, we have a lot going on and a lot to educate people as regards the addictions. And this concept is really free of charge. In fact, during the month of August, I'll be doing a whole series on Wednesday nights on the adult child of the alcoholic, the traits and characteristics I talked about earlier. I'll be covering them in my lectures the whole entire month of August, which are also on the website too. You can check that out. I just want to kind of hit quickly, because I mentioned the isolator, fantasizer, and caretaker, but I also want to mention that the recovery process from codependency and from addiction is both physical, emotional, and spiritual. And so literally, it's not only taking the person off the addiction, but it's teaching them to go through what I refer to as a grieving process of letting go of their old lifestyle and developing a new lifestyle, which we refer to in the program, getting in touch with their spiritual self. And by the word spiritual, by the way, just for clarification, I'm not talking about religion. The actual definition of the word comes from Latin and Greek, and the word means to awaken to who I am as a person. It's called my spiritual awakening, to get in touch with my inner spirit, who I really am on the inside. And so the biggest part of our recovery process is to really help people to really get to know who they are. And I always put it in real simple terms, to teach people how to love themselves, like themselves, respect themselves, and care for themselves. And if they learn that, They learn how to live, to enjoy life, and to celebrate life, and build that spiritual component into their life. And to me, that's what it's really all about.
I think it's safe to say, I assume you'd agree, that the more that you're able to do that, the more you make that kind of transition in your life, the less need there is to anesthetize yourself.
Exactly. You find out who you are. You enjoy being yourself. You know, and I can speak for my own self because, as so many of you know, I was a Catholic priest for 20 years, and most of my insanity was in my priesthood. And literally, I spent most of my life almost killing myself taking care of other people. But I've finally learned through the 12-step program how to take care of me. And I have a life today, which I didn't have before. And I think we do that to ourselves, especially in that caretaking mode. I spent a lot of time always, and it was a hiding place. I know that now. It was a place to hide from dealing with the reality of life around me. So it's much easier to take care of somebody else than to take care of yourself. And to me, what is recovery? Learning how to take care of yourself as a person.
And just to quickly piggyback off that before we start to wrap up, just is striking me right now when you talk about caretaking. I'm thinking that not the healthiest type of caretaking necessarily is when I figure you'll talk more about this next time, when the caretaking is more of the enabling type, as opposed to caretaking becomes more the empowering type.
Exactly.
And that transition, I think, is such an asset for people.
It's a big asset because when you learn to love yourself and take care of yourself, then you give positive energy to other people to do it for them. But you can't do it for them. If you do it for them, then basically you're enabling them. And so you have to learn how to let people find their own spirit, find their own journey. And
Absolutely.
No one can do that but them.
And I want to assure the audience that this is a man of positive energy. Look it up in the dictionary, and I think you're going to find his picture next to it. So, anything else you'd like to say for a wrap-up today?
Just that I enjoy doing this. I think the more we can educate people as regards addiction, codependency, the different aspects of addiction, but above all, to educate them on the recovery process and how it works, and that it's not a magical process where you take the addiction out of the person and all of a sudden they're cured. It doesn't work that way. It's a lifestyle change. You know, I realized in my own life too, I had to make a major lifestyle change with a lot of work, help from a lot of people. You know, and the 12-step philosophy to me, and you're looking at somebody who studied theology for a long time. I have all those things on the wall, you know, they're called degrees, by the way, and they're all in Latin. I don't know what they say, but that's all right. But I learned nothing about life, nothing about spirituality, nothing about personal growth until I got connected to the 12 steps. And to me, anyway, they are the greatest spiritual program on the face of the earth. And that's one of the reasons why I live by them. I try to anyway, you know, and I've learned more things about life through the 12-step programs than I did through all the things I learned in my seminary training and everything else that I was involved in.
Terrific. So, in other words, part of what you're saying is through all the commercials, through all the advertisements, just do it. Just do it. Can't quite work that way.
Nope.
Like you said, we're talking lifestyle.
Exactly.
Terrific.
Total lifestyle change.
Vince, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on,
it's always
and
a
we're
pleasure.
going to do this again.
My pleasure, anytime.
So, this has been Heading in the Right Direction. Subject's been addiction. My special guest has been Vince Di Pasquale, founder and director of Starting Point, and I'm very much looking forward to doing a follow-up on the show, having Vince on again. Hope you found it worthwhile and interesting, and hope to see you again soon. Take care.